What are we talking about?
Cats.
The live action movie of Cats.
Like based on the musical?
Yes.
So welcome to our Cats panel, y'all. Hi, everybody. My name's Christopher Wakamp. I'm a voice actor, and the rest of my friends here on stage are voice actors as well. We'll do intros for them in just a second. Thank you guys for coming out to this incredible low-ceilinged room and finding us. I appreciate that. We're here as guests of GameFest, and that's because we are playing a Dungeons & Dragons game live Sunday night, 6 p.m. Yes! It's like we already did it. Now we don't have to do it anymore. Thank you, guys. It's going to go from about 6 o'clock to 9 or 10 o'clock.
5.
Thank you.
No, 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock is when we set up, so
I
it
think
starts
that's
at
our
6.
call time.
Yeah. Starts at 6, yeah. Don't show up at 5 o'clock. Unless you want to help us run cables, you can absolutely do that.
Please show up at 5 o'clock.
Please show up at 5 o'clock.
Oh, here, let's shift mics.
I was just.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
Okay, there you go.
Aaron can have one.
Oh, he has one too. We just
I
have
have one too.
Oh, never
We
mind.
just
I
have
want my
a
dual.
Kyle, one of us has to be a fascist dictator with
Okay.
Yeah.
2 microphones.
God.
I do like the 2 microphones, yeah. There we go.
Aaron likes to roam around the room, with his mic. Okay, so anyway, the Dungeon Booth is a podcast of voice actors playing Dungeons and Dragons, and we started doing it about a year ago. We've got 2 games that have been released, a 3rd game in the hopper that's coming out. The hopper, that's a technical term. And then this is going to be kind of our 4th game, I suppose, although maybe we're doing it before the 3rd game. And it's our first live game, so we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
We have some. This panel is really about trying to get you up to speed on the game itself, so that when you show up to see the game on Sunday, you have some idea of the world and the characters that are inside of it. You don't have to have that information, but it's just sort of nice for you to have it. So that's why we're doing this. To my right, I'd like to introduce Felicia Angel.
me. Hi.
And she plays Limerick in the game.
I do. I'm playing a half-elf bard named Limerick. She's fun.
She's fun.
She's fun.
She's fun and funny.
She
And to-
fine, too.
She fine. And to her right, voice actress Mallory Rodak. And she is playing Agatha, the red-haired fighter, halfling fighter.
And very important news. Today's my birthday!
Yay!
Happy birthday!
Like her actual birthday. That's awesome. The
Actual
timing.
birthday, yeah.
The timing is incredible. Couldn't be better.
Yeah, let's celebrate tonight.
Yes.
See you in the lobby.
And to her right, the incomparable Kyle Phillips playing Thok, the half-orc monk.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then bringing it all the way back around to my left is my partner and producer. Sorry, Kyle. He's going to kill me if I leave him out.
No. I'll kill Kyle if you leave me.
There you go.
Such a spotlight
He
hog.
is.
He's
God.
just.
Aaron Willis.
Hi, guys.
Aaron handles a lot of technical stuff, and he's also my co-creator in this. Kyle, take it away.
I think you just thocked it up.
I did.
I was waiting
did.
for the first thocked it up
Yeah,
It's going to be more than one this
reference.
weekend, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I play Thok, a half-orc monk, but he very quickly turned into not kind of what I envisioned him to be from the beginning.
Yeah.
He burps a lot and pees a lot and farts a lot.
Yeah,
Yes, he does.
he's gross.
Drinks a lot of beer and maybe has a thing with Limerick.
Maybe.
It's confusing
knows?
because the first game included Thok as well as Limerick as well as Erica. And Erica's not with us for this game. And in that game, the 3 were kind of thrown together by fate. They didn't really have any relationship before they came together on this adventure. And in fact, all the adventurers that are in the Dungeon Booth work for this agency. They're kind of just contractors. They just go where people tell them to go. And they go perform those tasks, whatever they are. But right away, there was some chemistry between these 2.
Thok and Limerick. It was interesting too because I think the chemistry was like, I hate you.
Yeah.
But it blossomed into something great when she
Yeah.
rode you as you peed through a forest.
Well, you're kind of
So
skipping to the
just-
exciting conclusion,
yeah.
but she's
Spoiler
absolutely
alert.
right.
Wow.
If you haven't listened to it yet,
Yeah.
there's a terrible.
I don't think there's any amount of context that will prepare you for it. So it's
probably
even
true.
knowing that it's gonna happen is not gonna ruin anything.
Well, and so all I'll do is I'll just say with the first game, they were tasked with going to stop some bandits. Kind of standard low-level character type work. But we quickly found out that they were unable to even handle the easiest possible enemies that they faced in the first forest encounter. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
I actually have been re-listening so that I was caught up on sort of the intricacies.
Man.
And
It was bad rolls, but it was also
Oh
bad
my
decisions.
God.
It was kind of who here has played Dungeons and Dragons before? Raise your hand, because okay, good.
All right.
So we have some context for understanding what we're talking about here a little bit. Choices were made, and in that first battle, gosh, I can't even remember who drew first blood, but it took a while.
I think it was Erica.
It was a lot of-
Actually, I think it was a bandit. It was definitely not us.
Well, and Thok, you managed to. You didn't punch yourself, but you did miss a kick so badly that you fell over and hurt yourself. I know that.
Yeah.
So right away we knew we had a special group on our hands.
I think Thok has been prone like 3 times.
He lays down a lot. Yeah.
Because I always try and do over the top spectacular things, and it's like, and 2. It's like, all right, well, you didn't roll a 1, so that's good.
Yeah.
But you did not succeed in your efforts.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of successes, and yet everybody wins in the end somehow. So
It's because we're a great team.
that's what it is.
Yeah,
Friendship
teamwork.
was the treasure all along.
The power of friendship.
The power of friendship. So the conclusion of that game was really that we learned that each of these characters was perhaps embroiled in something that might be a larger plot. Not a lot of details beyond that. And then that took us into game 2, where we got introduced to Agatha. Agatha with her compatriots Twigsdale,
Yes.
LeSnap, played by Tia Ballard, and also Jameis, played by Steven Sanders. They ended up getting hired to go rescue a golem, which is kind of strange. And it sort of turned out that these golems were trapped in a cave. Not sure how they ended up in the cave exactly.
No.
But there was some evil magic at work. They knew that. And so going into the cave, Agatha sort of ended up being, I don't know, out in front almost all the time, it seemed like.
I mean, she's kind of a badass. I'm not gonna lie.
She
She's
is.
pretty. She's unlike me. I'm a very afraid, scared person. And Agatha's like, yeah, let's do this, going in every time.
Yeah. Agatha is, I think, the way that we all sort of wish we could be in social situations, at
Yes.
least for me.
Yes.
I wish I could be the person that would just go in and just like confidently meet everyone. And if anybody, gave me any problem, I would just put them in their place right away. That's Agatha.
Also,
kind of in a
her
nutshell.
flipping skills are pretty spectacular. Like, I don't know if she was a
Yes.
gymnast when she was younger or what, but
Well,
also
and I do
very-
want to talk about kind of our characters' backstories a little bit too. We dig into that a bit. So Agatha is a fighter, and so she's a halfling fighter. So,
Halfling fighter.
when you think about halflings in the Dungeons and Dragons world, you're really thinking of a person who's 4.5 feet tall or so, and so Agatha gets by a lot, I think, because people tend to underestimate her, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
She's very short in stature, but not in brawn.
Not in brawn or
Not in brawn.
spirit.
Yes.
Or bloodlust. She's also
Yes.
just a very she seeks out the
Yes.
murder of others.
Yes, I love that Tia Ballard in our game came up to Agatha and she's like, "What is that smell of iron? Oh, is that blood in Agatha's hair?"
So her hair is red, but also there's a bunch of blood in there, and we're not sure why.
Yeah.
That was really never covered.
Stay tuned for more.
Chicken or the egg situation.
It is.
Here.
And a halfling is basically a hobbit, right?
It's a hobbit, yeah. It's and then a gnome is sort of the more Germanic version of the hobbit, I suppose. It's the same sort of 4 foot tall person, but the halfling is the friendly hobbit sort of character, and Agatha is the not so friendly
Not so
hobbit
friendly.
person.
I feel like she opens up eventually. It just
She
takes
does.
a little bit.
She
but
does.
she started to develop a little thing with Twigsdale. So another
Talk
potential
to
romance.
us about that. Yeah, I mean,
I
what
mean-
was?
I'm so interested in that.
Tell.
Tia Ballard's character, Twigsdale, I think at first she was very cold, but Twigsdale was one of those characters that would just sort of open up and be just kind and generous and keep trying, even though Agatha was like, brick wall.
That's right.
And so eventually, I think like Agatha started to open up after all of those attempts. So they became friends, more than friends. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not clear because there was one thing that Tia brought to the game was she kept trying to go to sleep over and over and over again because she wanted to recover her spells, and I kept making it almost impossible for her to go to sleep, which was really fun. But when she did finally get to go to sleep, Agatha and Twigsdale ended up kind of snuggling up
Little
together.
cuddles,
Oh.
you know?
Noodles.
And we didn't get to learn what happened. I feel like I'd love to see that side quest. What is the side quest of them snuggling up somewhere? You know,
Who's
maybe
the big spoon? Who's the little spoon?
exactly down the road. Maybe
think Agatha is the
I was
big
gonna
spoon.
say it would
Yeah,
sort of have to be
yeah.
Agatha as the little spoon. Just the physics of that alone. Well, anyway, so the conclusion of that adventure was that they ended up discovering a necromancer who was working in this old abandoned cave tunnel area and seemed to have sort of kidnapped these golems by accident because he was busy with some other work where he was raising this giant undead creature out of a pool of black nastiness.
It's gross.
As you do.
As you do, you know, necromancers, sort of that's their Saturday, I guess. And so Agatha was able to actually strike the killing blow against that
I
necromancer.
forgot that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did
You
you
jump-
flip into your final blow?
She did.
Of course.
She jumped off of a wall and flipped in the air and I believe cut his head off.
Yeah, killed
Something to that effect.
Yeah.
And then they made their way back to Dr. Bennett's house.
Yes, Etheldred Bennett.
Etheldred Bennett's house, played by Sally Hayden.
Relative.
And
Yes, related to Don Bennett.
that's right. And while they were there, they learned that they learned something interesting in both of these sort of campaigns. They learned that when these adventurers were first hired, only 2 people were hired, and 3 people showed up in both cases. So nobody really knows why at this point, but that is sort of a lingering question that's left out there. It seems that perhaps there could be, some force or some group sort of behind the scenes that could be influencing how these adventurers work and where they go. But very little of that is revealed to this point. Maybe more of that will come out this Sunday. We'll see. So if you don't mind, can we talk a little bit about your character's background? Kyle, can you tell us a little bit about Thok and kind of where he comes from and what motivates him these days besides peeing on things and farting?
Besides peeing on things. Thok trained under a gnome in the arts.
I just got a picture of that in my mind.
Trained with
He's like 6.5 feet tall.
Was
and the
trained
gnome-
by.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the gnome is like
in the way of the open fist,
the open hand. Yes.
way of the open hand, monk style of fun and monkness.
Just wave at people all
Yeah,
the time.
he just waves.
I
open
imagine
hand.
slap fights.
Slap fights, a lot of that.
And one day when he was a young lad, some tieflings came by and
Well, half elves actually. Yeah,
They were
it was-
half
It was
elves?
half elves. Yeah,
that's how else that's right.
half elves.
They came by and
Raiders, I suppose.
You got a cheat sheet. It came by and burned down the huts, killed Thok's master. And
What was her name? Orla.
Orla.
Orla, yeah.
Orla.
Yeah.
And so Thok was like, it was one of those things where like they just didn't really know he was there when it happened. He kind of witnessed it all, and then came out to the wreckage and carnage of the hut and his dead master.
And actually, Thok was injured, wasn't he? Like he sort of pretended he played dead, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was injured, sort of left for dead by these raiders. And then there was a book that they were after too. Mm-hmm. Did they get the book? I don't remember.
They did not get the book.
They didn't get the book. Okay. So the book was like your master's book of teaching people how to be a monk, basically. Okay. Did Thok ever read that book?
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
Can Thok
Maybe that'll
read?
happen on
I don't
Sunday.
I'm not sure if Thok can read.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that bet. Is all I'm saying.
I mean,
then-
it's on his character sheet, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's probably defined whether he can read. I don't know. That's a good question.
I think he
look
can
that
read Gnomish and Common,
up. Okay.
or he can at least speak those languages.
Right.
And then he just kind of wandered the land like Caine from Kung Fu
Nice.
until he from place to place getting in adventures and whatnot. And this is one of his adventures.
Well, and you're seeking. So one of his motivations is he's seeking these half elves, right?
Yeah, that's his overarching motivation is he wants to find these people and figure out like what happened, why, get monkey revenge, justice, not revenge, justice. And just over the years, just going from town to town, he's kind of opened his mind a little bit. He started off as a harsh, classic half-orc kind of monk, as you would picture, and turns out he's actually kind of a closeted goofball.
Yeah.
And it comes out in the most opportune moments.
So true. Thanks.
And he's not afraid of
Farts.
farts. And in game one,
Yeah.
are you going to talk about this?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so they first, when they were, they were part of this mercenary group or this adventure for hire group,
It's the Adventurers Guild, yeah.
Adventurers Guild. They go to the contact for this mission, and it was at this Was it at a pub or was it outside of a pub?
The White Sparrow Inn.
It was at the inn. Okay.
Yeah.
And they were drinking goat's milk beer.
Yeah, goat's milk mead.
Goat's milk
Nah,
mead.
man.
Yeah.
And so no one else in the party enjoyed the mead.
Yeah.
Thok threw down like 4 or 5
He
of them.
did, and it didn't affect him one bit.
No, he doesn't get drunk.
That
He's
did
like
not-
Andre the Giant. Like it takes
It's
like
amazing.
100 beers, 100 meads.
I mean, at some point, I would have him start rolling for constitution checks, but I just never got to that point.
Yeah.
Because I just believe that Thok can
Yeah.
handle it. I just believe that.
he's one of those drunks where like
He
you
is.
can never tell.
You would never know it.
But so that storage of urine ended up coming in handy because
Saved
Yeah.
our lives.
they went to there was this thorn barrier, just
Yes.
brambles everywhere, and they couldn't figure out how to get past it.
The
but
tangles, it's called. Yeah.
The tangles.
The
And
tangles,
I don't
yeah.
remember who figured out that something smelled like urine.
Well,
Limerick
go
was
ahead.
the only one who could smell it. I do have to say, it was not my finest hour as a player because when we do these games, it's often very late, and I am not a late night
Sure.
person, so can't wait to play Sunday night. But it took us. So we figured out that the urine repelled these thorns,
yes.
They would retract.
and rather than pee on something and use it in front of us, he just starts walking and peeing, just
Yeah.
going. And I, as a player and a character, instead of going like, wait, there's got to be a better way, just climbed on his back.
Yeah.
He was like, let's go, let's
Yeah.
just see where this ends
This was
up.
They
kind
worked
of a pee battering ram of sorts.
Yeah.
And,
a heartwarming moment.
Yeah.
It's
was.
just
Wiener
so
first, going.
long to think maybe we could use it like
But-
on something.
But we did get all the way to the end of it, and I think I said like, man, that was amazing, guys. Thank you so much. You could have peed on a shirt.
Yeah.
He
They
does
found urine-soaked
eventually.
pants,
Well,
right?
it wasn't pants though. It was like there was a
cloak?
path through the grass that
Well,
looked
no,
like.
because I ran out of pee about halfway through.
And then he peed on a shirt.
and then
Yeah.
he peed on a shirt.
Yeah, we
shirt,
sopped
and
up.
He wore
Yeah.
the shirt. It was okay. So the pee pants
Yeah,
were
that's a different story.
when we
was in the
intimidated
forest.
that man almost to death,
Yes.
and he
Yeah.
wet himself. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Have you been drinking the goat's mead?
Right.
But I will let you live, but give me your pee pants,
That's right.
so that if I have to escape without anyone else,
That's right.
I can just take
got
the
Just
pants."
use those pants.
So
Wait, did it specifically have to be urine from goat's milk mead?
No.
No, it was just
No.
pee.
Just pee. Just,
I this whole time.
just pee.
Because Erica and I were both like, "Oh, we didn't have any of the meat. It won't
Yeah,
work."
just pee. It was so much easier than you guys were making it. Has anybody been a DM before and you come up with a puzzle and you're like, this is too easy. This is going to be too easy. And then you actually get to the game and you're like, we're going to spend 4 hours on this puzzle now. That happens all the time. This was not that case. Actually, you guys figured out based on some rolls, but also intuition of there was that path through the grass that looked like something had killed. It was like a dead grass path. And then as you investigated, there was a smell that you matched up with the smell that you smelled in the forest when you fought the bandits on the dude's boots. And so you're like, that's the same smell. What could that be? It's pee. So that was Thok, and that is Thok.
Yeah.
So going into this game, Thok is very motivated by this sort of overarching quest, but at the same time, it's fair to say he's sort of just taking whatever's coming, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's down for adventure, and hopefully it'll lead him to the revenge and the justice that he's looking
Bettering himself,
Yeah.
getting more information, and just having fun.
And
for.
farting.
Cool.
And farting, punching some dudes.
And a lot of punching and kicking. Whole lot of that.
Yeah.
So Mallory, tell us a little bit about Agatha. if you would.
Yes, Agatha Arendelle. So Agatha, halfling fighter, at a tender age, she was ripped from her home by a group of high elves. So great disdain for high elves, and she
excellent.
was forced to compete in a gladiator ring to the death. So she's got this horrible kind of backstory. She made some friends when she was in this gladiator ring. She was able to escape, but really all she knew in her whole life was battle. That was it. So she gained her freedom, but she started adventuring. At first, it was just all about killing, and she kind of got to this point where she's like, "Is there more to life than death?"
That's
Morose.
deep.
It's deep.
That's actually
deep
kind of
stuff.
deep.
I want
Um,
that. That's like a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
It's that good.
Right next to like a bumper sticker about your honor student or something. Is there more to life than death? I love that. So yeah, and tell us a little bit about this friend that she sort of befriended.
Yes. What was her name?
Delta.
Delta,
Yeah.
yes. So Delta was a person who was also in the gladiator ring that Agatha got really, really close with. And Delta essentially died in the ring under some questionable circumstances. Something went wrong. Somebody set her up to fail. And so Agatha is still to this day trying to uncover and unravel this mystery of what happened to Delta. So it'll be interesting to see if she can get any clues to what happened.
Right. And in your game, you know, the stuff about Delta didn't really come up, but this overwhelming feeling of distrust of people
Yes.
is sort of, you know, Agatha's hallmark personality trait, I would say.
Absolutely, yes. There's only been a few people that she's really started to open up to. Twigsdale was one of them.
Twigsdale.
We played
Twigsdale
a game
will
actually
snap.
on a podcast, and Felicia's character Pinion. I would say Agatha and Pinion had a little bit of a connection.
Yeah, we
so-
need to hear about Pinion too, because I know you just want to talk about
I
Pinion.
do forever. That could just be the panel.
I just know you love Pinion.
I do.
Thank you, Rye. Rye McKee, everybody. Round of applause. You just needed. I just wanted you to get applause once this weekend. That's all. Just once only.
It's
Just once
day
only.
one. You're just capping his dreams.
So, I mean, Agatha, you know, despite the fact that she is, you know, perhaps hesitant to fight, she understands that, like, her skills very much put her in the mix in
Yes.
battle situations.
Especially, you know, depending on the composition of the adventuring team, just because she is really powerful and she does a lot of flips and she's got that sort of attitude of I'm going to go in first.
Yeah.
She can kind of realize that that's her role that she needs to play with the group.
Trademark weapon is a long sword and
Yes.
shield.
Also, very important, she was sponsored by Ye Old Head and Shoulders for that blood-soaked hair, just to
right.
get a nice sheen on it.
That's right. Ye Old Head and Shoulders is actually a precursor to Head and Shoulders. A lot of people don't know that.
Yes, yes.
It was around in the Dark Ages. So,
Hashtag sponsored.
invented by Pope Ignatius III. I don't know. Yes, so that's Agatha, and we
Yes.
look forward to seeing more about her on Sunday as well, which brings us to Limerick. So Limerick is a half-elf lore bard. Tell us a little bit about a lore bard. What's that? What's the difference between that and a bard?
She knows things.
She knows stuff.
Yeah, that's really. She's less of a. She still does perform, but she's less of a performer, more of a gatherer of information, of stories, collector, and sort of archivist of interesting facts and lore.
So where does she come from? I mean, tell us about how she grew up and how did she get here?
Cool. So Limerick is half elven, and she was with her parents for the first many years of her life, and her human parent convinced the elven one to give both she and her sister human, like, kitschy names. So they're Limerick and Gimmick.
So cute.
Gimmick's a one-trick pony. It's, thank you. But her parents passed away when she was young, and she was sent to live with elven grandparents, and her grandmother hated those names, but rather than change them, she said that they were power words in the human realm. So now Limerick collects limericks from all different walks of life and tries them out. Usually, I think she's really just using her innate magical ability and her bardic skills.
Right.
But she has them, the limericks, as a conduit.
It's a channel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's using it to. And so when Felicia sort of presented the idea for this character, I was completely enamored with the idea of it right away, because it would mean that Felicia would get to cast spells by reciting limericks, which is awesome. We got a lot of fun limericks in game one, and I hope we're gonna get some limericks.
I have
On
been
Sunday?
busy writing new limericks for my spells and
Excellent.
also just finding random ones on the internet. If you guys want to tweet me any limericks, go
Maybe it'll
for
show
it.
up in the game.
Because
Yeah.
I really enjoyed sort of the mix, because Colleen Klinkenbeard, who is Riza Hawkeye,
Yeah.
she's Yayozaru
Right.
in My Hero.
My
If
Hero.
you don't know Colleen, like, why are you here?
She's Luffy. In One Piece, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's Colleen. But she is a big tabletop RPG player and general nerd.
Yeah.
And I had her, I was working with her on something and mentioned this, and she got so excited and asked for, like, my spells and sent me some limericks. And I used a couple of those and a few that were, like, skill specific, but then also just random ones I found online. So it was really nice to like intimidate people with like, there once was a man from Nantucket.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, please. Or to have like really cool moments of like actual seriousness.
Some of them end up being perfect. Like kind of poignant and perfect, and then some of them are just hilariously don't fit at all with what's happening. So that's always good. And then actually, I believe Limerick was the first person. Did you kill the first person? I think with a crossbow shot.
I did.
So you're actually a pretty nasty shot with a crossbow for a
Yeah.
bard. I mean, you don't expect bards to be really killing people, but I think you killed one of those bandits, didn't you?
Yeah, I think Limerick's sort of, we all have our objective. I'm going to go actor on you. And then there's the super objective, So there's the thing that you want, and then your whole life's overarching, and hers is not to die. Limerick likes Limerick.
Yeah.
She's in it for herself. And so I think moments like that are just pure,
Survival.
pure self-preservation. She wants to sort of ally herself with these stronger characters and let them do the fighting and her do the running away if they die.
Right.
But when they start punching the air and just whiffing it, she's got to take matters into her own hands.
That's right. Somebody's got to kill these bandits.
Yeah, it's not going to be him.
It's
He's
not
on
gonna
the
be him.
ground again.
Much of the time. Although, I will, to Thok's credit, he was responsible for killing the big bad of game 1 by punching his head off.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you did punch a lot of people to death, and specifically people I asked you not to kill.
That was no accident.
Yeah.
They went up against the leader of the Nightblades, a group of bandits, and his name was Gardrin, and he was horribly disfigured, and he also had these very strange sort of flying parasitic mosquito creatures that were flying around sucking blood. Thok ended up much of the battle with a giant proboscis stuck in his arm, trying to suck his blood out.
Because it was trying to suck his blood, and
I did on purpose.
It
I was like,
really
Well, at the
brilliant.
end you
Jam
did,
him in
yeah.
there,
At the
yeah.
end
So
you did.
rather than let him take the blood, he hit it and hit the proboscis through his
To make him stick
arm
there.
Yeah.
so that it couldn't suck his blood. But
'Cause
it
he
also
couldn't
didn't-
punch it.
Yeah, he couldn't
Yeah.
get it off.
But once it got stuck in his arm, he could punch it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of creative play we hope will happen on Sundays. It's nothing if not unexpected every time we do this. So I enjoy that about it. But so Limerick, going back to Limerick one more time. Limerick kind of comes from a tragic past in a way. You lost your parents, but at the same time, her attitude is very much just effervescent, easygoing sort of approach to life, I would say.
Yeah, it's all pretty breezy as long as she can make it out in one piece. It's actually funny because when I was conceptualizing the character, I liked the sort of playfulness of the limericks, but I play a lot of sort of upbeat, lighthearted characters when I role play. And so for her, I was like, you know what? I'll go in and I bet everybody else is going to be sort of big and she'll be like too cool for school and sort of, that self-preservation was always there.
Yeah, more reserved. Yeah.
But then we were on the carriage. And the driver was like, tell me about yourselves. And they both went like, no. And I was like, hi, I'm Limerick. And so she sort of evolved on the fly.
Interesting.
And
I didn't know that.
I love how she crystallized
Huh.
and she turned into just kind of basic.
Yeah.
And it all just sort of came together in the moment. I'm pretty hippie about these things, and I feel like they sort of materialized. She just sort of, I had this rough idea, and I was like,
Yes.
this is who I'll make you. And she showed up and was like, no, this is who I am.
This is who I actually
Don't
am.
worry about it. I got it.
And that's the fun of D&D too.
It
is You
is.
get to actually you get to figure that out as you go. We're probably going to be doing the same thing on Sunday night with some of this because we'll be throwing together 3 sort of characters that have never really worked together before.
Not me. I'm the new one.
That's right. So Mallory, as an outsider sort of coming into this game, what's your take on where you feel like you're going to fit in with this chemistry?
Well, it's interesting because I think Felicia's right. We've got 2 people who are going to just go in, punch or flip or
Yeah.
longsword somebody. And then maybe a more reserved, in the back of the room, checking things out, seeing what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. I feel like there's perhaps going to be a bond between Agatha and Thok, just because we're going to go in guns a-blazing.
That's right.
But then maybe there's sort of a protective thing with Agatha and Felicia's characters. So I don't know. We'll have to see kind of how it shakes out. But
Well, and when it comes to Thok, I think you'll find that you'll be the only one that's actually hitting anything. So that may also add to the dynamic that
Well,
you
I
experience.
disagree. I think we're gonna have an alpha dog competition.
Oh, I like that. Okay, interesting.
All right.
Who's really in charge of this ship? Yeah,
Yeah.
Me.
because Thok
No.
does tend to sort of pretend like he's
Yeah.
in charge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Because
he
he's
called
gonna rush
himself the leader immediately before failing to kill a bandit.
That's right. That's
right.
right.
That's
There's a lot of
Just was
bravado.
like, I'm the guy here. It's like,
Yeah,
no.
It was like, I think it was flurry of blows too. Like it was like 2 misses. It was just like, oh. And you just get punched.
So as you know, the monk character relies a lot on dexterity, and you do have pretty good dexterity.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, I just don't know why the dice does not favor Thok
Yeah.
attacking much of anybody.
No.
Until he's able to punch their head off, and
Yeah.
then there's kind of no in between. There's sort
Well-
of just hitting no one
0 to 100, he just
or blasting somebody to pieces.
I think the dice, like with the, what did you call that? The
Proboscis.
proboscis.
It's a very scientific word, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
In,
big pointy thing.
Any Magic the Gathering players in here?
Magic the
Magic.
Gathering?
So I love red. I always play red because I like like with goblins, it's usually like, you do some attack that does 3 damage, but also does 2 damage to you. Like I like that idea
Yeah.
of like the chaos of just like this blast of an attack, but also probably hurts me.
And the sacrifice involved.
yeah, and the sacrifice involved. So that's what
It's
like
dramatic.
I feel like a lot of people would be like, "Oh, let me try and get this off," but Thok's just like, "Stay
Yeah.
there," even though he takes like 3 damage. It's
Yeah.
like now I don't have to worry about this guy.
Yes.
and I can continue
Absolutely.
fighting.
So I do want to leave time for people to ask questions about our imaginary D&D game. It's not the game's not imaginary, the character's imaginary. But before we do that, I also want to let everybody know that on Sunday, if you're into D&D, we are going to have some stuff to give away to you that's actually pretty awesome.
it's really awesome.
So the folks that are here will know about this. I'll be telling the people on Sunday as well, but you guys sort of have an inside track on this because some of the people that we talk to on Sunday are going to be like, I don't know if I want to do this, but you can decide right now. Do you want to do this? Yes. You'll be ready. So we have these cool things called dice towers. Anybody know what a dice tower is?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a company called Elderwood Academy out of San Francisco, California, and they've been kind enough to sponsor our podcast, not only monetarily, but also they give us these really amazing dice towers and rolling trays. And I'm going to have 4 of those to give away on the game on Sunday. These things are like almost $200 a piece. So they're incredibly well made, incredibly detailed and intricate. So the way we're going to do that is when you show up on Sunday, there's going to be moments in the game when I'm going to turn to the audience. I'm going to ask for you to tell me what happens in the game. And you're actually going to come up on stage. We're going to put you on a mic. And you're going to help us decide certain very key points of the game. And yes, I realize how dangerous this is. But this is what I like about D&D. It's like you just never know what's going to happen. I'll give you a couple little spoilers again. Since you guys came to this, you'll have some information that the other folks won't have. You are going to define what a magical item does in this game. One person is going to be able to come up on stage, and I'm going to say, "What does this thing do?" And then you're going to be able to tell us.
And you're going to remember today and how much you like us and all the fun that we've had.
It destroys the planet. I mean, it could be, I'm going to have to rein you in to some degree, but just because we have to play a game. But it's going to be fun. And so anybody who comes up and participates is gonna get one of those dice towers to take home with them. And so I do encourage you, if you're able to make it on Sunday, and I turn to the audience and I say, if you see me talking to the audience at all, just put your hand up in the air, like immediately, because we want to get you up there since you guys are the ones that came to this panel. And give you a chance to do that. So what else do I need to tell you to get you ready for Sunday? It's going to be about 3 or 4 hours, so strap in for that. Although we will have an intermission, so we'll like halfway through we'll give a break for 15 minutes. You guys can go to the bathroom. We'll do the same, and everyone will go to the bathroom together. And, nothing weird about. There's nothing weird about that.
All at once.
We just hold hands.
We'll synchronize our pee, and we'll all pee together. And then we'll come back and have sort of the dramatic conclusion. So make sure you hang around and come back as well. And I do want to talk to Aaron a little bit too. So my co-creator, partner, producer, Aaron Willis, went with me on this crazy project a year ago and had never played Dungeons and Dragons before, and still has never played Dungeons and Dragons.
Wow.
I've still not played my first game.
But he's sat through several
I'm
of these
editing
games.
all the time, just
He's
constant
just
editing.
so busy with his life. But I do want to ask you, so sort of seeing Dungeons and Dragons for the first time in this sort of context of like a bunch of rando actors, getting together and doing this. What's your sort of impression of it? What's it been like for you?
It's really, really awesome. So I think one of the things that I was really impressed by is just I thought the game would be one thing. Everybody would be playing the game and it would be super interesting. But you have such big personalities going on over here that the banter in between roles is well worth the price of admission, even when Thok's whiffing and peeing everywhere. Like, it's still just 100% excellent. And the first time we recorded, because we really didn't know what we were in for, and yeah, Kyle and Felicia, you guys are troopers. It was about 7.5 hours long to get a 4-hour-ish game
about 5
out of it.
hours, yeah, 4 to 5 hours, yeah.
And so it was a massive marathon undertaking, even longer than just a good old-fashioned D&D game.
Absolutely,
because
yeah.
we had all the technical stuff going on, and it was so much fun, and I can't wait to see it. I have my favorite moments from all 3 games.
The third game not out yet. but
Yes. It will be.
That's more a reminder for him not to say anything about it than anything.
That it is. It is. Yeah. No, I won't. But I do want to talk about one of my favorite moments from
Please
game
do.
1.
Yes.
And it was between Limerick and a gargoyle. And
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
if you haven't listened to game 1, you need to go do that. Just today. Just pop your earphones in while you're walking around if you're not talking to anybody. It's really, I mean, both games are really, really great. But this gargoyle just exasperated Limerick for 7.5 minutes, it felt like.
that, yeah.
It was just ages of this very vaudevillian gargoyle.
Yeah, old vaudevillian gargoyle.
It was
We
so
told
fun
dad
for
jokes,
me
right?
too because I had like a whole thing. It was
You were going to disguise yourself.
I had
Yes.
a plan because we went on this thing and I was like, I am a puzzle solver in my day-to-day life. And I think it actually works against me sometimes because I'll look for zebras, not horses. And I'll feel like every detail is going to be super important in trying to track where this is going to go. So we see this gargoyle and it's living. And we just came and we didn't die in the brambles.
Right.
And I think, this is it. And so, like, Limerick is going to put herself out there because she's looking at these guys and thinking we need stealth, and they are not capable.
As a matter of fact, Kyle was hiding behind a rock. Thok was, or trying to, and the gargoyle was like, "I see you over there."
I see you, green guy.
And
Hello.
he's like,
She's like steeling herself to maybe die here.
Yeah.
And then walks up, and he's just a guy. Hey! And it was so fun. It was so funny. And then you couldn't stop talking like the gargoyle for like
I forgot about that.
hours.
The gargoyle talks like this. Yeah. And he says, hey, I see you hiding over there, green guy. You can come out now. I see you. Hey, so why did the troll cross the road?
Oh my God.
Well, there is no road and there is no troll, so.
And then it's just
That's the joke.
anti-joke after anti-joke. But that was a good moment. You're right.
It was a very unexpected moment. So for game 1, I knew sort of a tertiary understanding of what I would need to to record and everything like that. And I've had to incorporate myself a little bit more into the game as we've gone along for various technical reasons, which hopefully you all will see on Sunday.
We should talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is, if you ever seen Critical Role? Okay, everybody knows Critical Role, right? Adventure Zone, Critical Role? Okay.
Yeah.
So I love those shows. And what I've tried to do is take the best parts of those shows and turn them into games that can be completely self-contained. So you have 3 people in a game, you have a beginning, a middle, and end, it's done. That's what I really wanted to do, mostly because everybody I know is really busy and it's hard to get them for like a 10-week campaign. It's just not possible.
We've been trying to get just our friends who all also do this.
Yeah.
Rico Fajardo made an amazing campaign,
Yes.
worked with all of us. He's built this huge world, and we have been trying seriously for maybe 10 months to get 5 people in a room for 4 hours.
really
and
hard.
It won't happen.
It's really hard. Con season makes it twice as hard. Anyway, it's very hard to get everybody together. But I would say that, so that's sort of my goal, is to make something portable that a lot of people can play. But to that end, it has to be like pretty interesting. Because you're not going to have sort of the same characters over and over again every week, for months on end. So the way we do that is we have Aaron. And what Aaron does is while we're playing the game and while you see this game on Sunday, there's going to be live sound effects for everything.
Yeah,
There's gonna
ambiance, battle sounds.
We're going to have exciting, and that's sort of for whatever happens, y'all. Like, he just has a giant soundboard that he's going to be using to basically, so he's sort of there's 3 of us on stage and then 4 of us on stage, and then he's sort of the 5th person on stage because he's running all the sound, he's doing all the visuals, he's doing all that stuff. So
I have 5 buttons just dedicated to urination sounds. Ready to go at any moment.
that's
Boom.
so important.
And we
That's so
talked
important.
before. You have 67 different fart sounds. Right?
Yes.
So important.
Yeah. I have a whole machine that is just for Thok's bodily
just
functions.
Yes.
It's only farts.
Yeah, it's just farts.
So yes, and then so when you listen to the podcast, we've done all that in post with the first 2 games. So Aaron has gone in and post-produced and put in all those sounds and the music and everything. And then starting with game 3, we're doing it live. And we're doing it as it happens, and it's fun because it doesn't always work. And sometimes that's even better when it doesn't work. So, so look out for that. That's a good time too. I just wanted to highlight it. We bring production value. Dang
Yes. Yes.
it. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about your experience with sort of Dungeons and Dragons?
Well,
Is it still mysterious to you?
yeah, there's still a lot of like terminology that comes up because I remember the first time like we took our first break in the recording process, and I'm like, "What's a crit? Is that a gang member? Are you fighting a group of crits later? I don't know what you're saying."
Yeah.
And so, then just watching the dynamics of there's so much organicness to the game.
Sure.
Because Christopher builds this entire world that has to be very compact and self-contained, which is difficult in his own right. It's like, I want a deep narrative, but only for 5 minutes. And it's like, then you just have to be done. Like, so that's really difficult in and of itself. But then seeing the players get into it, live in this world, and Christopher's world have to react to the reality that the players are helping construct in the moment is so cool. And it's so completely unique to Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sure other tabletop games are just super similar. But that's been really cool.
And you love nerd stuff. You just never got into this
I
particular
do.
brand
Well,
of nerd stuff.
I grew up excessively Baptist when I was young, and so that was the devil. You were playing with the devil. If you had, dice only had 6 sides. You guys, I don't know if you knew that. If you brought anything else in,
I had teachers at school have an intervention for me, for playing D&D.
I'm really sorry I tipped them off. By the way,
Yeah.
I was in a different
It was
space back
the
then.
Baptist Network.
Yeah.
It was just, you sent them.
I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
No, but it's so cool. And even one of my favorite things about Game 2, again, go listen to Game 2, is Agatha's whole character arc and countenance. As this was one of the coolest things. And unfortunately, we didn't do video for Game 2, so you didn't get to see it. But we're all talking and palling, and everything's really nice. And Mallory comes in, and she's just super pleasant. If you haven't met her, definitely come meet her. Nobody else, though. They're all a waste of time. But Mallory's great. so we're doing all this stuff, and she's sitting, and the game starts and everything. And the first time she talks, she's like, "Okay." It's like, what is happening? Like, she's just a completely different human being on that end of the table. I'm glad I was on the opposite end. Made me feel very safe. But
I brought Mallory. That reminds me. I brought Mallory into it, kind of like being like, oh well, Mallory will be a stabilizing factor. Whatever happens with Tia and Steven, like Mallory will ground us back in reality. And she showed up and was just like, well, we should kill it then. I'm kill. Oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah, we thought Tia was gonna be like this, this free spirit, like kind of you never knew what was gonna happen, and she was, but like she was chasing butterflies the entire campaign.
Yes.
And Mallory comes in with her longsword, like, I will cleft everything in twain, and blood will flow in the streets. We're like, okay, let's pick up a dice and let's do this. Like, so, yeah, it was really interesting. But then to see her like actually beginning to make friends towards the end of it, it's like this is a organic thing that's happening. And it's just really cool.
It took a while. It didn't happen right away, but it did. It was a slow process.
Yeah.
We've got about 10 minutes left, so I do want to turn it over to y'all folks. And you don't have to ask us questions just about D&D unless you do want to ask us. But we can ask us about voice acting. You can ask us about this room. I'm sure I could talk knowledgeably about this strange
I really like
configuration
this painting.
of lights.
I've been looking at this painting.
The painting, yeah, it's evocative of
Yeah.
a boring sort of rock formation. I guess we all see what we want to see in art, don't
Are
we,
you thinking
guys?
about peeing on that rock?
Yeah. Those big weeds, it's like,
Yeah, they need it.
I wonder if they would die if I
They
peed
would
on
die.
them.
They would totally die. They would run away from you. So yeah, any questions for us at all? Yes, sir.
Were the characters previously made, or did you make them to start the campaign?
So at the very beginning of the campaign, good question. I turned to these players, these very capable artists and creators, and I said, "Who would you like to be?" And then we sort of had a conversation about that. But for the most part, I would say, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but these characters are like 90% y'all's. I think.
Yeah.
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 Well, you turned down my first 3 ideas.
I mean, but not counting those.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to play if possible. Now, I don't think are there any, there's no alignments in, is this 5th edition?
Yeah, there's alignments. Yeah.
But it's not the classic grid.
It is the classic grid.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I like to
So
play,
just-
I like to play chaotic evil characters if I can.
Yes.
It does ruin campaigns though.
I vaguely remember you having that conversation with me where you were like,
Yeah.
I kind of want to be a bad guy. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, they have their place, but they always end up getting killed.
Yeah.
And I didn't want you to die.
Yeah.
You know?
The last time I played
I mean,
that
I
chaotic
kind of want him to die. I will tell you this. This is another issue that I have with some of the other popular role-playing games out there, and it's a function of success. Once you become successful, it's very hard to kill people. It's very hard to kill off characters, and like Critical Role, had that problem, and they sort of tried to solve that problem. You can have your opinion about how well that worked or not. But you get to a point where if you feel like these characters can't die, it takes away so much of the drama for you, so much of the enjoyment. And this is true not just of D&D, but at all media. I mean, every book, every movie, the greatest ones out there just kill people sometimes, and you never know, because that's life, right? So that's mirroring life. We hope not, but it does work that way. So so that is one of the things I wanted everybody to sort of feel like at any time their decisions could lead to either their death or sometimes their own death is not a big deal, but what if it leads to your party member's death? Have you ever tried that with your players? They hate that.
Which character got a sword or something buried in their shoulder?
Sword in their shoulder.
that?
I had an arrow in me for
That's what it was.
for a
Yes,
while.
that's what it was. The arrow.
Everybody was back clapping and congratulating themselves over the person I killed.
That's right.
Was
and
the
then
arrow.
Erica fell unconscious in game 1.
Yeah.
So Erica went to 0 hit points in game 1. She rolled her first death
Scary.
save and passed it. So thank goodness. But we could have lost Erica, and I want that. I want people to feel like you could die. You absolutely. If you decide you want to jump over a well, for example, and then
Yeah.
fall 60 feet down into a well. We played a practice game here recently, and Thok, just to warm ourselves up again,
Yeah.
and we uncovered a well, and Thok was like, well, what I want to do is jump over the well and jump kick this skeleton in the face.
Yeah.
And you did. You absolutely did. And then you also fell in the well.
Yeah, like
60
feet
down to the bottom of the well.
But into some water, so.
He survived.
And then he burst out of the well at some point,
Yeah.
covered in muck and grossness.
I like
and
the
blood.
word. I like the word effluvium. Yes.
Effluvium.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good
It was
word.
great. He loved it.
But I really appreciate the ownership over the characters. I really it invests me.
It's important.
It's my favorite part of playing a game is the character creation and then living in that character's skin. Like
You have 3 minutes to tell us about Pinion, because I know what you're building up to right now.
I wasn't. I was going to say though to lend to those stakes.
Yes.
I feel a personal sort of connection and ownership over Limerick, so I'm more protective. I think I'm more invested in rather than sort of a pre-rolled character. Be like, oh, and then he died.
He's
All right,
dead.
whatever.
Whoopsie-doo.
It's like, no, this is my baby.
You don't want to
part of
lose.
you.
It's like
Yeah.
you're part of you at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good question. And now, do you want to talk about Pinion?
Yeah, so he's a night owl, like Knight, and he's adorable, and he's 14 3/4, and he's going out on his very first missions, and I'm like writing a book about it. So it's a whole thing. But he's adorable, and he is part of the Order of Chivalry, and so he's out to in our game that we played. His whole MO, he's from a long family of knights, is to go out and protect fair maidens, and then we ended up in a party that was almost all women and almost all fighters, like just some sort of attack class.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, they got this. I'll just be here."
Yeah, he's real cute. And he ended up, and in our game, he met with Zalvin Shamwow.
Yes.
who was-
Zalvin Shamwow is one of my favorite characters of all time.
He's a very bad human being, objectively. But he was a wizard who specialized in selling snake oil, basically, fake cures. But he did so very energetically, and I think you may see a little bit of Zalvin Shamwow on Sunday. Perhaps.
Yay.
Perhaps some nods to Zalvin Shamwow. So we'll see.
So happy.
We shall see. Anybody else have questions? Yes, sir.
Has there ever been a point where you, as the GM, had a set path for the story and then your players just completely derailed it?
Oh, yeah.
Like when they got off the coach.
Yeah, man. Not necessarily this group as much, but I started playing this when I was in high school. And back then, you would play with people who, you probably heard of murder hobos before. Murder hobos are just the stereotype of role players who all they want to do is kill people. That's all. They don't care about the story. They don't care about the motivations. They don't care about anything else. If you go to a shop and you say there's a potion seller, they're going to try to kill the potion seller. Like these are murder hobos. That's all they do. So when you play with people like that, you really have to you have to come up with very rigid, inflexible consequences. That typically revolve around the city guards, and that could be, they're in the middle of a town square, and he decides to pickpocket, and then he gets caught, and the shop owner lets him go the first time because you're trying to be nice, and then he turns around and attacks the shopkeeper. Now you're bringing in the city guard, and you make it clear that the way you make it clear that this is impossible is you have sort of the NPCs or the people standing around do stuff like go, "He must have come out of retirement. I can't believe the blood claw's back on the city watch." Things like that give the player the impression of like, whatever you do here ain't gonna work, And you have to be inflexible. You have to kill people. I've had to kill people hundreds of times. I've done it so many times. I can't even tell you.
In game.
In life, this is just a story about our lives, isn't it? I thought this was a biography. Thank you for your question.
I must say, I have some murder hobo
Yeah,
tendencies.
well, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to do bad things. I mean, part of the reason people play open world games, like Grand Theft Auto and stuff, is so you can go kill people in the game so you don't kill your boss, your real boss,
It's crazy to see. I am married, have been for some time, and my husband is just super zen, like real laid back guy. But when he plays like Skyrim, I've watched him like murder his companion and then loot them and leave them naked in the snow. And I'm like, she carried all your things, like, useless to me now. It's just a different...
It's a release
It
in
is.
a way.
And,
it is.
yeah.
It's cathartic in a way.
Limerick
Yeah.
was like that for me because I'm very community oriented. Others above the self. And she is so about her, and it's so nice.
It is.
It's so nice to just be like, well,
don't care about
it
anyone
might be
else.
really funny if you go in there and die. So, yay for me.
And props to Chris for being an
Yes.
awesome DM.
Thank you.
Round of
You
applause
guys-
for Chris.
You guys haven't even seen it yet, but thank you. I hope you enjoy it on Sunday.
Yeah, and you can really tell the difference between a good DM and a bad DM because, like, when you talk about those situations of have you ever had a player kind of derail whatever you're doing, a bad DM is like shuffling through papers and just like, well, that doesn't happen, or they'll have some crazy like act of God happen that gets them back on the right track, and so it's like,
Yeah.
But Chris is he'll be like, okay, that's what you do. All right, well, this happens, and then he just kind of rolls with it.
In our practice game, we went completely off grid at one point, had this whole side quest, it influenced everything, and then we didn't find out till the end of the game. None of that was planned. He improv'd an entire hour-long side quest and then rolled with those choices through the rest of the campaign.
It's
pretty
improv. At its best, D&D should be, like the very best improv game that just happens to be happening in medieval times or whatever, when it's done well. So thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. We're almost out of time. Does anybody have any more questions?
Another one.
I have one more.
Yep. Yeah.
Has there ever been a time where characters they face a villain and everyone has a mindset, okay, we're gonna kill this guy, we're gonna defeat this guy, but it kind of switched. Instead, he just the bard makes them their best friends. I know that's a thing, like where the bard somehow seduces.
People think that strength is the strongest stat. It's charisma.
Just like in
Just
life,
like
you
in
guys.
real life, yeah. Charisma is unbeatable, and the way you beat charisma though is you make it so that the people that they are influencing are influenced, and the outcomes are not exactly what you'd expect.
Yeah.
That's actually just a story. That's just what's good for storytelling. Is that there should always be unexpected things happening in the story that people don't necessarily see coming, but it also serves your campaign because it. So, for example, I played a game once where I had the big bad show up very, very early, just as kind of foreshadowing, and they charmed the big bad in like the first 2 scenes of the game, and I was kind of like, what do I do now? I don't, and but what I ended up doing is it turned out, was the big bad. He revealed all of his plans to them, and also revealed how the reason that he showed himself in the first place was because all of his plans are now completely unmovable, and he wants to just stay with the players and watch and observe as all these terrible things basically unfold. And I sort of had to just come up with that very quickly. I got it from some bad 90s action movie with, I forget who was in it, Dennis Hopper or something. But it just popped into my head. I was like, oh yeah, that movie. Well, that's the bad guys right with the good guys through the whole entire campaign. They could kill him at any time. He doesn't care. They need to keep him alive because he has information that will actually help them prevent these horrible things that are happening, that unless he tells them how to do it, there's no way they're even going to know it's coming, basically. So it was sort of a way around that in a way, I guess, while still honoring the fact that that's what the dice decided. So,
And we did have a situation like that at the end of game 1 where we, came across who we thought was going to be the ultimate bad, and there was a pleasant twist. And like, I think I rolled a 20 twice in that game, and
You
it was
did.
both related to this. So
you did, yeah.
go watch that.
Yep. I hope you guys
or listen.
will check out the Dungeon Booth. I think we're out of time. Thank you guys so much for talking with us. Really appreciate it. And see you on Sunday, 6 p.m.